Meta description: A leaked photo shatters the silence between Jungkook and Winter, exposing a secret romance hidden in plain sight. As agencies scramble to contain the scandal, the two idols must decide if their love is worth losing everything they've built. The flash of the camera was not a burst of light, but a violent tear in the fabric of their carefully constructed reality, slicing through the heavy velvet curtains of the private booth at Le Noir, a restaurant so exclusive it did not appear on maps and accepted reservations only through whispered referrals from royalty. Jungkook froze, his hand halfway to lifting a glass of water to his lips, the condensation cold against his fingertips, while across the small, candlelit table, Kim Min-jong, known to the world as Winter of Spa, did not flinch. She simply closed her eyes, a slow, deliberate movement that signaled not fear, but resignation, as if she had been waiting for this moment since the first time their hands had brushed backstage at the Mama Awards 3 months ago. The shutter clicked again, a mechanical predator capturing the intimacy they had fought so hard to conceal. The way Jungkook's knee rested against hers under the table, the soft, unguarded smile that played on his lips when he looked at her, the way Winter's hair fell over her shoulder, shielding them from the prying eyes of the public but not from the lens of the long-range telephoto positioned across the street. In that suspended second, before the photographer could retreat into the shadows of the Seoul night, Jungkook saw not just the end of his privacy, but the potential collapse of two empires built on the backs of millions of dreams. He lowered the glass, the water trembling slightly, and looked at Winter. "They got us," he said, his voice barely a whisper, stripped of its usual confidence, leaving only the raw vulnerability of a man who had finally been caught. Winter opened her eyes, her gaze steady and dark, reflecting the flickering candlelight. She did not pull her leg away. Instead, she reached out and covered his hand with hers, her fingers interlacing with his in a gesture of defiance that was more powerful than any statement her agency could ever issue. "Let them look," she said, her voice calm, though Jungkook could feel the rapid pulse beating against his palm. "We have nothing to hide." But they did. They had everything to hide. In the world of K-pop, where idols were marketed as available fantasies, where dating was considered a betrayal of the fanbase, their relationship was not just a secret, it was a contraband truth, dangerous and illicit. Jungkook knew the consequences. He had seen groups disbanded, careers ruined, and fans turn violent over less. He thought of ARMY, the millions of people who had supported him through every high and low, who had bought his albums, streamed his songs, and defended his name. Would they see this as a betrayal? Would they feel lied to? The weight of that possibility pressed down on his chest, heavier than the fame, heavier than the expectations. But then he looked at Winter, really looked at her, and saw the same fear mirrored in her eyes, mixed with a determination that matched his own. She was thinking of MY, her fans, the girls who looked up to her as a symbol of strength and elegance. Would they forgive her? Or would they shatter the image they had built for her? The door to the booth swung open, not with the gentle push of a waiter, but with the abrupt intrusion of reality. It was manager Kim, Jungkook's longtime handler, his face pale and slick with sweat despite the cool air of the restaurant. He held a phone in his hand, the screen glowing with the harsh blue light of a notification that had already spread like wildfire across social media platforms. "Jungkook SSI," he said, his voice tight, strained. "We need to go. Now." He didn't look at Winter. He didn't acknowledge her presence, treating her as if she were invisible, a ghost in the machine of Jungkook's life. But Jungkook saw the way manager Kim's eyes darted to their joined hands, the disgust and panic warring in his expression. This was not just a breach of protocol, it was a crisis management nightmare. Jungkook slowly pulled his hand away from Winter's, the loss of contact feeling like a physical wound. He stood up, his legs feeling stiff, and looked at Winter. "I'll call you," he mouthed, the words silent but clear. Winter nodded, her face a mask of composure, though Jungkook saw the slight tremble in her chin. He turned and followed manager Kim out of the booth, leaving Winter alone at the table, the candle still burning, the untouched food growing cold, the silence of the room amplifying the roar of the storm that was about to break. Outside, the rain had started to fall, a steady drumming against the pavement that masked the sound of the approaching cars. Manager Kim shoved Jungkook into the back of a black van, the tinted windows offering a false sense of security. As the vehicle sped away, merging into the traffic of Gangnam, Jungkook pulled out his phone. The notifications were endless, a cascading waterfall of alerts that he couldn't possibly read. Twitter, Instagram, Naver, all of them were exploding. The hashtag #JungkookWinter was trending #1 worldwide, accompanied by the blurry, but undeniable photo of them at Le Noir. Comments were flooding in, a chaotic mix of shock, denial, anger, and support. Some fans were crying, posting videos of themselves deleting albums. Others were defending them, arguing that idols were human too. But the noise was deafening, a cacophony of voices that drowned out his own thoughts. He scrolled through the images, seeing other photos surface. There was one of them leaving a cafe in Hanam-dong, wearing masks and hats, but their body language gave them away, the way Jungkook leaned toward her, the way Winter laughed at something he said. Another showed them walking in a park in Jeju, disguised as tourists, but the resemblance was unmistakable. How had they missed these? How had they been so careless? Or had they simply stopped caring? Jungkook leaned his head back against the seat, closing his eyes. He remembered how it had started. It hadn't been planned. It hadn't been a strategic move or a publicity stunt. It had been accidental. They had met at a mutual friend's birthday party, a private gathering of artists and producers. Winter had been sitting in the corner, looking overwhelmed by the crowd, and Jungkook had approached her, not as an idol but as a fellow musician. They had talked about music, about the pressure, about the loneliness that came with fame. They had realized that they were speaking the same language, a dialect of isolation that only those in their position could understand. From there it had grown. Late-night text messages. Secret meetings in hidden corners of the city. Shared meals in private rooms. It had been innocent at first, a friendship born of shared trauma. But then, one night, after a particularly difficult schedule, Jungkook had driven to Winter's apartment complex, parked down the street, and waited. When she came out, he had rolled down the window, and she had gotten in. They had driven to the Han River, sat on the hood of the car, and watched the lights reflect off the water. And when he had kissed her, it hadn't felt like a crime. It had felt like coming home. But now, home was under siege. The van arrived at the Big Hit Music headquarters, a fortress of glass and steel that usually felt like a sanctuary but now felt like a prison. Manager Kim led him through the corridors, past staff members who avoided eye contact, their whispers following Jungkook like a trail of dust. They entered the conference room, where the executives were already gathered. The atmosphere was toxic, thick with tension and blame. Bang Si-hyuk, the founder, sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. Next to him was the head of PR, who looked ready to faint. "Sit down, Jungkook," Bang Si-hyuk said, his voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of steel. Jungkook sat, keeping his head down. "Do you know what this means?" Jungkook nodded. "Yes, sir." "This is not just a dating scandal," the PR head said, his voice shrill. "This is a cross-agency incident. SM Entertainment is furious. They are calling it a breach of trust. They are threatening legal action. They say we encouraged this. They say we leaked it." "We didn't leak it," Jungkook said, his voice quiet but firm. "It was a paparazzi shot. We were careful." "Careful?" The PR head laughed, a hysterical sound. "You were seen holding hands. You were seen smiling. Do you have any idea how much money is at stake? The endorsements. The tours. The brand value. It's all at risk." Bang Si-hyuk raised a hand, silencing the PR head. He looked at Jungkook. "Is it true? Are you dating her?" Jungkook hesitated. He could lie. He could say it was a misunderstanding, a friendly meeting. He could protect the company, protect the group, protect himself. But he looked at Bang Si-hyuk, and he saw not just a boss, but a mentor who had always valued honesty. And he thought of Winter, who had told him to let them look. "Yes," Jungkook said. "We are dating." The room went silent. The executives exchanged glances, calculating the damage. How long? Bang Si-hyuk asked. 3 months, Jungkook admitted. And does the group know? No, Jungkook said. I wanted to tell them. But I was afraid. Afraid of how it would affect the dynamic. Afraid of the burden it would place on them. Bang Si-hyuk sighed, rubbing his temples. You have put us in a very difficult position, Jungkook. But you are also our biggest asset. We cannot lose you. But we cannot ignore this. We need a strategy. A narrative. What kind of narrative? Jungkook asked, dread coiling in his stomach. We deny it, the PR head said quickly. We say it's a rumor. We say the photos are fake. We sue the photographer for invasion of privacy. We control the story. Jungkook shook his head. No. That's a lie. I won't lie about her. Then what do you suggest? Bang Si-hyuk asked. You want to admit it. To the world. To army. I want to be honest, Jungkook said. But I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to hurt the fans. I don't want to hurt Winter. Honesty hurts, Bang Si-hyuk said softly. Always. But sometimes, it's the only way to heal. We will draft a statement. Acknowledging the relationship. Asking for understanding. Emphasizing that it is a private matter. It's risky. But it might work. If we handle it with grace. Jungkook nodded. Thank you, sir. Go home, Bang Si-hyuk said. Rest. Tomorrow will be a long day. And Jungkook, be prepared. The world is going to judge you. Harshly,